Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Becca and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Today we're going to be doing a sewing tutorial. We are going to be making some fun stuff for the bathroom, including this headband that you see me using here. And then we're also going to be making some reusable face squares to wash your face with, to remove your makeup with, to cleanse your face with, whatever it is that you want to do with it. And then we're also going to be making a little travel kit out of all of the same materials that will help you keep all of your stuff together. This set of DIYs are super easy to make and should definitely give you some sewing confidence. For our supplies, you're going to need your sewing machine, scissors, measuring tape, and then also fat quarter squares of your choice. If you don't want to go out and buy fat quarter squares, you can also just cut a square that is 18 inches by 18 inches. And then you're also going to need terry cloth of a matching or corresponding color. So first, if you're working with a fat quarter square, if you want that perfect 18 inches by 18 inches square, you can just do a little bit of an origami technique here to make a perfect square. So you just fold it over and then cut off the excess, and you're going to hold on to that excess because you're going to be using that for the little squares to wash your face with. So don't forget where that little piece is, and you're going to cut the exact same size 18 inches by 18 inches in the terry cloth as well. The next item that you're going to cut out is the little strap to hold this entire bathroom burrito together. So it's going to look like this in the end, but what you're going to do is cut a 16-inch long by 3-inch wide rectangle, and you're going to fold it in half so that the wrong side is out. That means that the inside of the fabric, the side that has the pretty side, is on the inside, and you're going to stitch around 2 of those sides, leaving one of them open so that you can flip it back right sides out. It'll look something like this. And then all you have to do once you flipped it inside out is to top stitch around and close up that hole. If that sounds in any way confusing to you, that is literally all we're doing for all of these pieces throughout this entire project, is sewing right sides together, flipping it inside out, and top stitching. So if that's confusing, we're going to be doing it a ton more times. So just keep watching and you will see me do it a bunch of times. I just kind of forgot to do the strap until the end, so that's why I'm putting that in right here. After you finish top stitching your strap, you're going to put it on the inside of the square so that it is touching the right sides of the fabric on the inside. I cannot stress enough, on the inside of the fabric, so that when you flip it inside out, it's caught in that stitch on the side here. That will make it look so professional and a lot more sturdy. Next, you're going to top stitch all around the edges, and don't forget to leave an opening so that you can flip this piece inside out. On something like this, you want that opening to be just slightly larger because this is a lot of fabric that's going to be passing through that little hole. And something to keep in mind as well is you don't want to put that opening on one of the corners because that makes it really hard to top stitch over that. So make sure that you do it on one of the sides. Next, I like to trim off my seam allowance because I think that it makes the piece a little bit less bulky and a lot easier to top stitch. After you have flipped it inside out, do not skip pressing. Pressing is one of those things in sewing that I feel like a lot of people don't do, and it makes your pieces look unprofessional and just not as good as they would have if you pressed. So definitely in all of the parts of sewing, if the instructions say to press, please do it because it just makes it look so much better. And especially if you're doing top stitching, because as you can see, this is really flattening out that seam, flattening out the entire piece really, so that it just looks a lot better. After you've done all that, you're going to flip up the bottom so that you can decide where you want to stitch all of your little lines. And I will have you know, I did not put the strap in early because I totally forgot about the strap, so that's why you don't see it here, and that's why I had to add in the little graphics earlier, but I did add on the strap later, so it was all fine. So I'm going to pin here where I want the fold to be, and then just in case, like as an added measure, I'm going to fold it in half so that I can see if those edges line up. You could also just measure it out, but this is what I do because it's way easier. So I'm just making sure that it's even on both sides so that there isn't a slanty fold. Next, you're going to top stitch around the entire burrito bag to just finish it off really nicely. If your machine is having issues sewing through a lot of layers of this thick fabric, because the terry cloth is kind of thick, try adjusting your tension, because it usually is a tension problem with these things. So usually you would loosen it if you're sewing with thicker fabric than usual. So if you're having issues, you can do that, but if you're not, don't touch your tension. Like, it's a trash hole, just don't even worry about it. So now we're going to mark out where we want all of the lines to be sewn. Again, I'm going to grab my little models here to figure out where I want them to be. It really doesn't matter where you put these, and it really just depends on the type of person you are with your bathroom stuff, what kind of stuff you have. I typically leave them to be a little bit bigger because I don't really travel with makeup brushes very often. If I do, it's like, I don't know, 1 or 2 of them. Usually it's like brushes, toothbrush, mascara, lipstick, stuff like that I would put in these little pouches. So whatever you want to do, you can customize it for you and your needs. Once you're finished, you can roll it up like a little burrito and enjoy it. So something that's really awesome about this is it is machine washable. I know that traveling is like really gross and you touch a lot of strange and random things and you put your bathroom bag in the plane or the train or whatever. And so it's really nice that this is machine washable so that when you get home, you can sanitize it again and make sure that it's nice and clean for your next trip. The next items we're going to be making today are for your skincare routine. So we're going to be making some reusable face squares and this little headband. So it should be really fun and easy. First, we're going to do the little squares. So what I do is I cut a 3" by 3" square. This quilting ruler makes cutting these squares so easy because it is exactly 3 inches wide. So I'm going to be cutting 5 of them because if you saved your fabric from the last project we made, this is about how much you should have left. So just go ahead and do that. If you did not use a fat quarter square, you probably have a lot more and you can make an unlimited amount. But I'm basically just using the first square that I cut as a pattern, and I'm cutting as much as I can. And you're going to do exactly the same thing with the terry cloth. And I don't think that I mentioned this before, but I got this terry cloth at my local fabric store, but you can also just use a towel that you already have at home or thrift a towel. I don't know how you feel about that, but I always see towels at the thrift stores, so lots of fabric there. To make these little squares, you're going to turn the fabric right sides together. You're going to sew around all of the edges. And again, don't forget to leave a little section open so that you can flip it inside out. This is so important. We are going to be sewing these little squares assembly line style, so that means you're going to be doing one step on all of them and then moving on to the next step for all of them. This kind of helps me to not have to shift my mind around to all of the different steps that I have to do, so I'm just doing one step for each and then I'm moving on. I think that it's really fun to do it this way, and it just kind of lets your mind go numb a little bit, which is something that I like about sewing. Just sewing mindlessly is kind of fun, so make sure that you leave an opening on the side of the square, not on the corner, just to make it a lot easier for you to flip it inside out, because this piece is a lot smaller, but definitely make sure that your little hole is big enough still to like navigate with your fingers and everything. Next, you're going to be flipping them inside out by using your fingers just to flip through that little hole and using your fingers also to poke out the corners. Make sure that you press them nice and flat so that you have an easy surface to top stitch on, and then top stitch as close to the edge as you can for all of the little pieces, and you will have the cutest reusable face square. I keep wanting to say face round, but these are squares and you can use these over and over again to cleanse your face, wash your face, take off your makeup, pop them in the washer, and they're good as new. Next, we're going to be making the headband. This headband is 34 inches long and about 3 inches wide. I think this one that I'm cutting is actually a little bit wider than that, but you're going to be putting that nice side of the fabric on the inside, so you're sewing right sides together again, and make sure that you don't forget to leave that opening so that you can flip it inside out. Now this one's a bit different because I'm wanting to round off the ends, so I'm going to be using something slightly non-traditional to do this, I'm going to be taking a plant pot that is about the size of the curve that I want and cutting the corners along the pot. It seems a little bit strange, and if you have a better way to do it, like, please do that instead. I was just looking around at the things that I had around me, and it just worked out that way. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out those corners so that I know basically the basic angle of the curve, and then I'm going to just curve it. And I could have folded this in half to make it even more symmetrical, but I don't know why I didn't. And then I just took up the bottom half and I flipped it so that I could make sure that they were the same curve. If that made sense. I think that made sense. And then lastly, you just have to sew along that curved edge. Make sure that you press after you flip it inside out, and again, top stitch, Cooper. And again, top stitch around the edges as close as you can to the edge. Something else that you're going to be needing for this is Velcro. So I cut about, 3 inches of Velcro, and I sewed it onto the ends where I felt it was most appropriate for my head. So this piece is actually very long, so it does overlap a bit. So make sure that you consider that when you are adding on your Velcro. Like, I practiced wrapping it on my head and then putting the Velcro where I wanted it to go several times before I finished this because I wanted it to lay flat. So now you have a reusable skincare set. I love this so much. I use this every single day. I love it. So I really hope that these projects gave you some sewing confidence and some inspiration. I will see you guys in the next video.